Welcome everybody to this webinar today. We're starting a little bit early because there's a little bit of housekeeping to do. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's really great to see you all for our second webinar of the March trilogy. Just let me know in the chat where you're all based. I'm in Thailand at the moment. Well, I've been here for quite a while actually. You're in Thailand too, are you, Glory? It's nice to see you. In the UK, whoa, that's great. Well, you're probably the furthest away so far, Hong Tran. Let me just move the chat to my other screen so I can see it clearly. Sama Prakan in the UK, Vietnam. Yogi Kat, Indonesia. Oh, I love Indonesia. Very much miss going to Indonesia. Vietnam, I was there a couple of months ago. Chanterbury as well in Thailand. So we're going to start, as I said, a little bit early. I've got a few things to tell you. My name is Dale Spafford and I'm the Asia Regional Professional Development Manager for Macmillan Education. And we are absolutely delighted to have you all with us today. Today we're going to be having our second of the global March trilogy, and this one is called What's Trending in the World of ELT. We've got Super coming up and Blue who are going to take you through the session today. Please follow us to learn more about upcoming events and to keep up to date with any products that we have. You can follow us on our Facebook page, or you can follow us on WeChat, and also there's email addresses there. If you're based in China or if you're based in the rest of Asia, you can use those email addresses to keep up to date with what's going on. And you will all receive a certificate. This will be sent after the session. And in this email, you will receive a link to the recording as well. So please be patient. You will definitely receive a certificate, but check your spam folders if you haven't received it, all right? But we promise you will get one. And just a little nod to Thursday. We have a session coming up on Thursday, which is obviously the third in the global trilogy, where myself and Super will be discussing the turning points in academic life, and Blue will be hosting that event. So we'll look forward to meeting you again on Thursday. Please register for that. This year is a very special year for Macmillan Education. This year we're celebrating 180 years since Macmillan was founded. This is when two Macmillan brothers, Daniel and Alexander, opened their first bookshop and published their first books. They soon became a big force for change. They published timeless works like Alice in Wonderland. Has anybody read Alice in Wonderland? And founded Nature, which is the first, and up to this day, the most prestigious scientific journal. So to help us celebrate, please join us, visit the anniversary website and explore some interactive timelines and maps that will take you back in time to the year 1843 when Macmillan was first founded. And you may also add your wishes to our virtual anniversary card and tell us how you advance your teaching and your own learning as well. So without further ado, let's bring our speakers to the stage. So today we've got two speakers for you, or two trainers for you. We've got Blue. Hi, Blue, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Del.
Good, man. And we've got Super as well. Okay, hi Super, how are things?
How great. Hi, Del. Hi, Blue. Good afternoon.
Hey, Super.
So Blue is our regional teacher trainer and academic consultant. Blue is based in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City. That's right, Blue, isn't it? You're there now?
Sunny Saigon.
Sunny Saigon, yeah. And Blue is a recent addition, and we're very lucky of Snaffle Blue, and he's joined Macmillan since January this year. So we're very lucky to have him to bring his expertise, to bring his knowledge to our team and really strengthen our academic team. Super is based in
Shanghai, China.
In Shanghai, yeah. And Super's been with us for a while now, four years, Super, right?
Almost getting to the 5th year, yeah.
Yeah.
For more than 4 years now.
Almost 5 years, yeah. So yeah, and you've probably met Super before because she's a regular in these sessions, always bringing her expertise and knowledge to our chats. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye now and hand over to Blue and Super, who are going to be discussing the trends, the themes of ELT, and at the end, there will be an opportunity for a Q&A. If you have any questions, please just drop them into the chat and I'll keep a record of them and we can ask Blue and Super these questions at the end. Or you can use the Q&A function in the Zoom platform as well. So have a great session and I will see you again in about 40 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Del, for your brilliant introduction. And I'm going to share my screen first. Let me know if it's working. Yes?
It's all good, Super.
Okay, great. So it's a very a great honor for me today to be here with Blue. Yeah, we're going to not really like discuss or like share. We're going to maybe talk about some of the most trending parts of the ELT world together, and also drawing on teachers' ideas as well. Maybe we can co-discuss, talk about the whole about this topic together. And of course, drawing from Macmillan Education's course books, a lot of our recent researches from the global teaching community, we can share some of our perspectives as well. Yeah, so without further ado, I am going to maybe kick off with the first keyword I would like to bring onto the table, which is blended learning. So blended learning has been, I know everybody knows blended learning, and a lot of our teachers have been working in a blended learning style as well, or the students are learning blendedly in a blended way, across Asia, across world. So I think in the coming years, in 2023 or even the years after, blended learning is going to be more and more trending and popular, and also very, very effective as well. Starting with some data about the ratio of teachers teaching online during the pandemic in the last 3 years, I think we can see almost 2/3 of teachers have taught online, or even more of them are still teaching online as well. And a lot of work of teaching and learning has been happening online, using internet, using technology, the communication, the teaching, the feedback, even the exam, the assessment, will go online. So Blue, have you taught online? What's your experience of teaching online then?
I certainly did, Super. And it was a new experience for everybody at the time, I guess, during the whole COVID pandemic. But it's also one that people got comfortable with to some extent. So this whole idea of blended learning, I'll be interested to see how it lends itself to what we used to do during the pandemic and how we might move online learning forward as well. Yes, exactly. So thanks to the pandemic, blended learning or online teaching and learning has become a new normal. Although, according to the data we collected last year in Asia, it's not a very comprehensive, but it can represent some to some extent of the situations teachers in Asia right now. So face-to-face teaching are back to the classroom. 74% of teachers are back to the classroom, and with only 9% of teachers are teaching online only. So a small portion of teachers are still teaching online. They're not yet back to the classroom at that time when we collected the data in 2022.
And also there is like 70% of teachers and schools are doing like a teaching in a hybrid way. Here, I mean hybrid, I mean like teaching both in online and in the classroom. Yeah, combine the classroom and the online teaching together to make the teaching more flexible and accessible to all, depending on the COVID-19 situations. So we can see there is a trend to going back to the classroom, but at the same time, some of the online teaching, hybrid like teaching learning styles remain. So in this case, yeah, it's a very good like sign for us to think about how blended learning are going to move forward. So let's start with like what. So what is blended learning exactly? So teachers, feel free to share your thoughts in the chat as well. Yeah, according to your experience, let us know what do you think blended learning is. So Blue, I just want to ask you one question. So what are the things being blended here? So what's, yeah, from
under that umbrella of learning, it could be a large range of things, really, Super, in the fact that you want some kind of collaboration to be blended at home, in the classroom. How can we do that? How can we sort of facilitate that for our students and basically make it seamless between, I guess, learning from home or in the school and mixing everything together? How can we do that?
Yeah, so there are a lot of pros and cons, I think, from both sides. So the online learning and the classroom learning has its own pros and cons. The idea is how we can combine them and blend them together to make the learning more effective. So I think blended learning comes in this way, how we can take the benefits of both the classroom learning and the online learning to make the students' learning more effective. So that is the key of the future of blended learning, I guess. So while when we look at blended learning, how we can make it more effective, how it is working to make the learning more effective, I think it is because at its core, blended learning is based on everybody learns differently. We respect everyone's learning like needs, learning habits, and learning like styles. So blended learning could help students with different learning like needs. So we acknowledge the differences, and also we support the students with a variety of technology, online resources, and also the classroom, the teachers at the same time, to fit the students into a way that they can learn best. And in this case, we can see the time, the place, the path, and the pace. The 1T plus 3 Ps. So the students can have some control over the time they learn, the place they learn, the path they learn, and the pace as well. So in this case, we can cater to different students' needs and make sure the students can find the best way they learn, and also find the best resources they can use. That is why blended learning can work to support students in this way. So here, let's have a quick example, give you some quick examples of how we can blend our learning. So for example, if you want your students to do a project together in the classroom, so when they do it in the classroom, they meet and they work together, right? But if we want to blend it, Blue and teachers, feel free to share your ideas about how we can make it slightly blended, about a project work.
I'd love to hear the suggestions from the participants here in the audience. Learners meet in a classroom to collaborate and continue a project. How can you make that blended once at home? Are there any sort of online tools or applications or platforms such as Zoom that you could use to allow blending to happen?
So we can extend the project work and use some tools and platforms to support and record, and also to share the the project work as well. So they can use like channels to communicate online. Yeah, they can use platforms to record the progress of the project. They can share the files using like Google Docs. They can collaborate together on a Google Doc as well. They can use social media channels to publish their project work and share with real audience as well. So to make it blended is to add more resources online like platforms to make sure the students' learning is more effective. So that is one example. And also for a lot of like pair work, group work, like speaking activities in the classroom, we can also make it blended as well. So if you want your students to extend their pair work or like group work speaking activities, you can use some online services for a text or voice call, to make sure they can not only talk face to face, they can also talk like using a phone or using a mobile, like a video call, chat call, something like that. It's also a real life like a communication task, right? Not only face to face classroom work. And also they can use these online tools to record that chat for later review or error correction. That's the benefits, I think, of blended learning. We can use these tools to help further develop their group work or pair work. And also for exams or assessment, it not only happens in the classroom, we can also use online tools to record the progress, using data, to take online quizzes, to submit like works online, and also to ask the students to take part in peer reviews if possible, if the data or the exam result can be recorded online. That's even more convenient. So these are the simple ideas, examples of blended learning. And also from our Macmillan Education like course books, I would like to give you some 3 quick ideas how you can blend. So for example, this is an example from the 6th level course book for primary students called Story Central Plus. There is always an online searching task at the end of the lesson, of the CLIO lesson. So the students will have opportunities to work online after the class to search more information they're interested. So this is something you can do as well in the classroom. After each lesson, after talking about some certain topics, ask your students to do some online searching tasks, and then they can record the information online and share with each other as well. And the second example is about the flipped classroom. So you can assign some like pre-class work to the students to do before they come to the classroom. So this can be done using a blended way as well. So here is a quick example for you to refer to. So this is a example from our Gateway to the World like secondary course book for teenagers. So we have like a very good resource for teachers to use in a flipped classroom mode. So these are 4 types of grammar presentation videos, because grammar is usually a pain point, right, Blue? Students, it is always something the teachers want to help the students with. So in a flipped classroom, teachers can assign like a flipped classroom grammar videos to the students to watch at their own time before the class. They can watch it like 2 times, 3 times until they get it. Then they come to the classroom to practice and apply the grammar in a like meaningful task. So we save time in the classroom explaining the grammar rules. We focus more on the application of the grammar in meaningful tasks in the classroom. So I'm not going to show you the videos because we don't have much time left. So I'm going to quickly move on to the last tip. So using interactive and adaptive software is also a very good way to blend your students' learning. So for example, this course book called Speak Your Mind is a 6th level course book for young adults. We have a student app called accompanying the course, where the students can use at any time when they're free. So it is like micro learning for them to do on their mobiles. So there will be a lot of activities and tasks they can do at in a very short time and from time to time as well. And there will be a lot of data recorded to help the students to further practice and develop their learning. So if available, you can use apps like that. There are a lot of apps and softwares available, I think, nowadays for students and teachers to use. So these are the three ideas I would like you to maybe think about how you can make your classroom more blended. Okay, so over to you, Blue.
Brilliant, super. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And also, I must say, before I get my part ready, everyone, I'm loving the interaction in the chat. You guys are all educators from all parts of the world, and I really like the ideas that you're suggesting. It really adds to what we're trying to present to you here today. So if you give me one moment whilst I prepare myself. So I'm looking at task-based learning. Can you confirm if you can see that okay, super?
Yes, brilliant.
Okay, so task-based learning. So let's get straight onto it with that obvious first question. What is task-based learning? Now, communication is at the heart of what task-based learning is. It's the reason a number of educators and institutions are utilizing it. And that's not only exclusively in the world of ELT, but across education as a whole. Because what it does is it tasks students, it's the words in the title, with collaborating and completing tasks collectively together. And of course, to do this, they need to communicate. So it approaches collaboration, communication, and planning in an organic way, giving students the opportunity to not only be creative, but to use their initiative and think for themselves. And also as a teacher, it's really quite beautiful in the way that it's teacher-led, in the sense that you create the parameters, the rules, the requirements, but it allows you to sort of take a step back and monitor rather than being engaged with your students through each part and each step-by-step of the process. That comes later on. So let me introduce it to you. And there's really three parts to task-based learning. The first part is the pre-task. Now, this can be introduced in a number of different ways in order to raise consciousness of what the task the students are about to do. So it might be through pictures, posters, realia, demonstrations, or actually it might just be through covering content in whatever course book you are studying. So as a teacher, task-based learning doesn't have to be explicitly an activity within your book. It's something that can be attached to a number of different activities and tasks that they might have to do, the students, in that book. So for example, here's Speak Your Mind, Unit 2. Okay, it's the third book of our young adult series. And this unit itself focuses on animal characteristics and animal relationships. Okay. And here's the speaking part of that particular lesson. Now, I would look at this and think, okay, I like this. I have to basically rank these 5 animals in order of intelligence, most intelligent to least intelligent. So the book's content itself can be used as the pre-task material. But how can I build on that and make it a task-based language sort of element to it? Well, that comes in the task cycle part. Now, this is the meat to the bone of what task-based learning is all about. This stage is done using the target language so that students feel the need to use the language that they want to in order to solve the task at hand. And again, the teacher doesn't necessarily have to join in the work progress, more so monitor. So this is where you might task your students with doing something as a group, collaborate together in order to present something at the end. So using that example from the book, Speak Your Mind, it's a speaking task. We're looking at animal intelligence. So what can we do with this? You can be very flexible. First of all, you might just give your students some template vocabulary because you want them to state their opinion, ask for opinion, agree, disagree, and maybe politely interrupt, but not use that overly used phrase of I think. So instead, you're giving them some template vocabulary to work with. And of course, down at the bottom there, there's a confident communicator, which allows students to be fluent as well. But to really build on that and make it really more task-based, what you could do is you could give each student, or each group of students, I should say, a specific animal. So assign them an animal, for example, a whale. Now, I know whales are very smart and intelligent species, but if you ask me, how are they smart or what makes them smart, I honestly think I would struggle to give you any hard facts. So what you could do is you could make each group responsible for conducting research on a specific animal, and then they present their argument to the class in order to say, hey, this is why we think whales deserving of the title of most intelligent animal. So it takes it away from the book, from the speaking, and turns it more into a task-based activity. And then finally, the post-task. Think of this as the review stage of task-based learning. This is where you would evaluate a student's work or group work, but not only you, but also get students to evaluate students, doing some peer checking, maybe some peer correction, okay, and giving them the opportunity to commentate and review each other's piece of work and presentation. Again, it takes the workload off you, and it also implements that idea of collaboration from a team, but also collectively as a class. The fact that students are offering other students advice, critiques. It's a beautiful thing to see when it's implemented correctly. That moves on to how can you implement TBL in your classroom? So as an English teacher, you're not going to get around the boring stuff. You know, you're going to have to drill the grammar, the vocabulary. That's not going anywhere. But what you can do is try to be a little bit more flexible in the way that you might bring task-based activities into the classroom. So for example, nothing new here. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel, creating a poster and presenting said poster. So here's an example from a student book from our Happy Campus series, 2nd edition. Now, I love this book because it very much focuses on It's Our World. And it really drills home to the students the ethos and ideas of global values and making them global citizens at such a young age. And as you can see here, we're focusing on the environment. Why not make an individual poster a group collaboration poster, and then which they can present to the class? And again, they can get that feedback from their peers as well. Also, making a video or short movie, acting out a skit or a role play, for example. So here, using Story Central Plus, level 3, you've got a story. Now, my eyes are very bad, and I probably didn't make that big enough. But basically, take the theme, the context, the idea of the story, and get your students to build on it. Maybe get them to role play what happens next. I think this one is about talents, what people can do, like special talents, a talent show. Maybe you can implement a talent show aspect to this particular story and example. Or, as I mentioned, if you've got the technology and resources and the ample time, and if you want to include some of Super's ideas with blended learning, hey, why not task them with making a video or a short movie based on what they've learned within the story? A solution to a practical problem, and also group debate and discussion. Group debate and discussion is something we looked at in my first example when we looked at animal intelligence. Now, what about a solution to a practical problem? Now, here's a reading piece from the same book, from the same unit that we just looked at animal intelligence. The trouble with strays. Collectively around the world, a number of countries struggle with stray animals, particularly dogs and cats. Now, how can you turn that into sort of activity where they're going to present together, collaborate together? Well, first of all, you're going to think about a solution to this very problem. You're going to task your students with what can they do to help any country, any city that's facing this problem to help the animals in need, the cats and dogs. So again, you're encouraging that collaboration, research, and presentation. And of course, it encourages further use of English and leads to further discussion and debate in the final part of task-based learning. So to wrap up, let's just look at some advantages, some very simple advantages. And again, there's nothing new here that you guys probably don't already, but it's a firm reminder of what can be implemented in your classroom if you're flexible with the content that you've got. How can you implement project work, collaboration work in that task-based learning environment, maybe including Super's ideas from blended learning, and maybe just use their English in a more organic nature in the classroom. And first of all, as I mentioned, it complements what Super mentioned, that blended learning approach. This can be done in the classroom or also at home, where they can utilize platforms such as Zoom in order to communicate and collaborate. And finally, something that's very much trending in the world of ESL these days, 21st century skills. It enhances that overall mindset of citizenship, collaboration, creativity amongst your students, critical thinking, which for me is numero uno, okay, it's very important, and of course that overall growth mindset. So guys, in a nutshell, that's task-based learning, and there's some advantages to it. Again, I'd love to have some of your questions at the end of this session. But for now, I'll happily turn back to you, Super.
Yes, thank you very much, Blue. And you just made it very great to combine blended learning also together with task-based learning. And also, as I mentioned, projects are also very good for blended learning. So yeah, all these trends I think are very, very, maybe wind with each other. Yeah, because the objective of these trends, these teaching, is to make our students' learning more effective, more meaningful, to help them with their learning. So here comes the next key word I'm going to talk about, which is social and emotional learning. I believe you must have heard this word for a lot of times, and it's going to be more and more trending, I believe, in the coming years. So social emotional learning, firstly, I think it comes with the changing roles of teachers and the increasing responsibilities of teachers as well. As an English teacher, we used to teach maybe language, right? In the classroom, we teach grammar, we teach vocabulary, and we teach the 4 skills. However, nowadays, our roles and responsibilities are increasing. We are not only teaching the language, but we're also developing the students' competencies. For example, culture competency, life skills, thinking skills, learning skills. And among all of these skills, I think social and emotional learning is one of the approach that combines all the competencies and skills very well together in a framework. And it is very well integrated with a lot of teaching materials. For example, the course books we publish by Macmillan Education, we have been using social and emotional learning in our course books to develop the students' competencies while they are learning the language at the same time. So I'm going to give you some examples, and tell you what social emotional learning is and why it's important, and how we can make it more effective in our classroom. So if we want to define social and emotional learning, we can use this framework by CASEL, a framework, an organization who's dedicated to develop social and emotional learning. So there are 5 key elements. The first one is all about self-awareness, how to recognize our own emotions and values, and also our strengths and weaknesses, to understand ourselves better. Not only adults, young learners, young teenagers, they are also very important for them to understand themselves in order to manage themselves as well. So managing their own emotions, their own behaviors to achieve their goals. This is something, we as teachers and also parents will have a lot of concerns about. So with social emotional learning, I think the students will be more capable of understanding themselves and control and managing themselves. And beyond that, we also want the students to, be aware of the society, the people around them. They will need to show understanding and empathy for others and for the world around them as well. This is how they can be a better a citizen, be a better employee, be a better friend, the family. And that's how the relationship skills will come in. So the students will need to establish relationships with all the people around them. So they will be a family member, a team member. Yeah, they will need to develop, like deal with conflicts. Yeah, they need to have that skills to be a social animal, right? And then lastly, we want the students to be able to make responsible decisions around what they do, what kind of people they want to be, and what kind of world they want to live in. So they will make ethical and constructive choices about their personal life and their social life as well. So these are the 5 key elements of social emotional learning and how it will support young learners, teenagers, and adults to become a better person, not only learning the language, but also developing their competencies as a human being. So these are some examples of the sub-skills under the 5 key elements of social emotional learning. If you're interested, you can go back to check all the sub-skills. And I am going to show you how these sub-skills are developed in the English classroom, and using some of the materials we have access to right now in the English course books. And it is also being researched, and a lot of data has been there to show the benefits of social emotional learning. So this is one research done in the USA. And Blue, can you tell what kind of benefits are improved? Like what kind of skills are improved the most by integrating a social emotional learning program into the school?
The one that immediately caught my eye was skills.
Yes, so the students will have more opportunities to develop their skills and also their academic and their emotions, their social skills as well. So there will be more outcomes to coming out of a social emotional learning program. So it is something we can definitely integrate with our English language programs to make the learning more comprehensive and effective. And let's have a look at some examples. So you might wonder, okay, if I need to take some time to teach social emotional learning, how am I going to finish or achieve the language teaching objectives? Teachers might have that concern. So it's very important to integrate these social emotional learning tasks together with our language tasks and also our language teaching materials. So one example from Happy Campus, which is like a primary course book that Macmillan Education. So we have these these collaborative tasks, as Blue has already mentioned earlier. So these are the collaborative tasks at the end of each unit called It's Our World. And at this stage, the students will work together on a topic based on social emotional learning, cultural diversity, health and well-being, and also sustainable development. For example, how to protect the nature, how to make well choices. So these are the things the students will work together as a small group or as a pair together to develop understanding about the world around them. And at the same time, because they will do collaborative tasks, they will need to understand each other, work together, developing their relationship skills, and make a very good a decision about what they're going to work on. So they will make maybe posters, they will work on maybe some projects, small projects. They can draw a poster or make, maybe if we want to make it blended, you can make a digital poster as well. So by integrating these social emotional learning contents together with some project work or collaborative tasks, the students will be able to develop their 5 elements of social emotional learning together with their English language learning. And the more, if we want to integrate social emotional learning more in depth, we can just make it part of the syllabus. For example, this is one example from the teenager coursebook Gateway to the World. So we have actually integrated the social emotional learning with all the writing, speaking, listening, and it's part of the syllabus, and we teach it through meaningful context. So here you can find some examples. So there is one social emotional focus like per unit. So you will find like relationship building, appreciating diversity. We also have like reducing stress, how to manage their emotions, right? And also positive attitudes, how to achieve their goals using these social emotional learning skills. You will find that these focuses are all very related to the 5 elements of the social emotional framework I just introduced earlier. And these are just part of the syllabus, and the students will have opportunity to develop it through the unit. So for example, here we have the lesson called Great Learners, Great Thinkers. So learning skills, thinking skills will be developed here in this lesson. And Blue, can you tell us what social emotional learning focus of this unit? Can you tell from?
You've got me there, Super. Let me have a look. I'm looking around. Can anyone beat me in the chat? So
Yes, teachers.
I'm going to go with Well, I don't want to say it before someone else, but I can see it. Collaboration, teamwork.
Yes, and it is part of the relationship skills of that framework, right? Yeah, it's all about how students can collaborate well in a team, how to be a good member, and how to work together with others. So this is like the focus of the social emotional learning skills in this unit, and we teach it through meaningful context. So for example, we will use meaningful videos, like real life videos from some documentary channels. So we use videos to introduce the topic. The students will watch a video to understand, for example, what different jobs robots can do. I will just show you very quickly about this video. Sorry, it's not working.
But Pepper is a robot. Before, people had all kinds of jobs. But now we can go on public transport, buy our lunch, or get on a plane and never talk to a person. So what does that mean for people's jobs?
So this is a quick, a snapshot of the video we use. So wait a second. It's like from real life resources. The students will watch videos to understand the topic, and then they will read some meaningful reading text as well. So the top soft skills teens need, which is also very relevant to teenagers. They will also do a thinking task to think about what skills they think that are most relevant to their lives. And lastly, they will do some speaking activities to share their ideas about what's most important of being a good being an employee in the future jobs. And these meaningful contexts work together to support students to develop their social emotional learnings. So it is very important to use real life content and use meaningful content to engage the students while using some social emotional learning skills tasks integrated into the learning tasks. And then lastly, they will have a chance to reflect as well. So in the Great Learners section, the students will think about great learners communicate and work well in a team, and they will be able to grade themselves. They will be able to think about how well they are in communicating and working well as a team, so that they can further develop their skills as a team member. So this is how a Gateway to the World has integrated the social emotional learning with their teenager content and materials in a language course book. So that's all about social emotional learning. Hand over to Blue.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting. And the word organic is one I use a lot. And in this context of social emotional learning, it very much can be organic. It doesn't have to be explicit within the book. So the 2 examples there, for example, that Super shared with you, 2 fantastic books for primary and secondary level that explicitly introduce SEL. So it's at the top of the student's mind. But again, in your classroom, maybe it's as simple as reading a story, a fable, a story of a good, strong moral at the end, where the students can then discuss, well, what's the message of that? The giant turnip, the farmer trying to pull out the giant turnip, but needing collaboration and teamwork and effort from his wife, the dog, the cat, the mouse, the boy, the girl, and just that idea of collaboration. So even just reading a story to young learners in order to sort of engage them in that social, emotional element is a great way of organically getting back from sort of that idea of what it is to be emotionally in touch with other people and consider the people and world around us. Thank you so much for that, Super. So guys, the final piece of the puzzle. If you just give me 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds, there we go. CLIL, 4 letters with a big, big meaning. Can anyone tell me in the chat, what do those 4 letters stand for? I can't see the chat now, so you're gonna have to help me here, Super. Does anyone get it in the chat? What does CLIL stand for?
Let's just give teachers a second to type.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I've got here classroom language instilled love. No, I think I've made a mistake there, haven't I? Can anyone help me in the chat?
Yes, teacher Han Pan has already got the answer. Yeah, and the
Brilliant.
teacher.
We've got a few. We've got Hafam, and we've got, apologies if I pronounce your name incorrectly, Glazil and Hung Tran. Thank you very much. It of course means, as you mentioned, content and language integrated learning. Now, this one is very easy to define. It's when you take all of those subjects that your students are studying and you put them all in together and blend them into your ESL English classroom, whether that be history or arts, geography or maths, biology or physics. You blend them all together and integrate them into that everyday English that you're using in your classroom.
By the way, Blue, I love this poster. Did you create yourself?
Oh, yeah, that is me.
It's you, right?
I cannot remember the app, but it does represent me quite well. I'm quite short. So, benefits of CLIL. Well, number 1, students become more confident using the language because it enhances their understanding of subjects in that second language that they're using. In this particular case, English. And it also develops multilingual interests and attitudes. And that's really interesting because, of course, the way that they may be taught the language, the topics and subjects in their native language and their mother tongue might be different to how it's approached in English. So not only does it enhance their understanding, but it might actually change their attitudes and interests towards that subject as well. In terms of future life, of course, it prepares the students for future studies and or working abroad, entry exams, anything like that. So here's some examples. Here's one from Story Central Plus Level 3, primary level. Now, guys, I hope you can see this all right. We've got some safety. Okay, a little bit of reading there. What do you think the CLIL element of this particular lesson is? Please tell me in the chat, and I'm hoping Super can share with me. What do we think?
It's about health.
It could be health, and you're certainly right. The broader idea of science, but yeah, certainly that biology element there as well. And of course, this one, extreme Earth, the coldest places in the world and the hottest places in the world. What do you think the subject related is?
It's definitely geography, right?
You're correct, Super. Thank you. And geography. So again, you get the idea. And again, it's something that's being implemented across a number of ESL courses and textbooks at the moment, because it's seen as a necessity in order to not only engage students, to build that confidence when they might be going to a school that's not multilingual, not bilingual, but maybe exclusively English. And maybe they're falling behind in certain subjects because they're not exposed to it enough in English in their English classroom. So by implementing it into the world of ELT, it builds that confidence for them to then go and use in their own classroom. When they go study math, when they go study geography or history, they have a more general and broader idea and can follow the lesson more successfully. Now, I love this Story Central Plus series of books for one particular reason, and that is the CLIL ebook. Not only are they exposed to these subjects in their student book, but we have an ebook as well, which expands on the subject. So here, for example, you've got science. There's 4 pages within the CLIL ebook dedicated to science, which finishes off with my favorite part of collaboration, project. And again, you can bring that sort of task-based element into the classroom, blended learning as well, looking at a project to finish off whatever subject you're covering within that particular lesson. So how can you incorporate and implement CLIL across your classroom? And of course, games and activities is your go-to, really, isn't it? Now, what I'm going to give you here are some examples that aren't exclusive to a book, but maybe, for example, in your lesson, you've covered food. Okay, you're a primary school teacher, you've covered food, you've spoken about fruits and vegetables and hamburgers and French fries and McDonald's and KFC. Now you want to sort of get the element of health in there to sort of teach your students what health is and build their understanding. The alphabet game is a great way to do this. Basically, give your students the 26 letters of the alphabet and task them with writing down 1 word for each letter of the alphabet related to the topic that you've presented to them. In this case, health. So here's some examples from me. Health, athlete, dentist, energy and heart, kick and jump and illness. Love. Now I will stop there because what this activity allows your students to do is not think outside the box, but more so just think more broader, not just, because again, at a younger age, when you hear the word health, maybe immediately you think of healthy food and playing a sport. But again, let's talk about mental health, social, emotional well-being. So the idea of love being healthy is brilliant. And if your students can make that connection organically, job done. They're halfway there to success. I would like to ask now you guys in the chat, I struggled with Z, the letter Z, Z. What do you think I put for the letter Z in my health alphabet game? I really did struggle, but I got there in the end. What have we got in the chat? I'll quickly pull it. We've got zinc and zest. Zebra, Zen. Oh, I love Winhall. I love Zen. James. Oh, mate, James, that's probably the best one yet. James has put Z for sleeping. And that's brilliant. Nothing healthier than getting ample amount of sleep, at least 12 hours for me. So what I did, guys, I went with Zumba. But yeah, some great idea, guys, and actually ones that I didn't even think of either. Maria, zoo. I would love you to elaborate on that. So that's the health game. So again here, Happy Campers, book number 1 from our 2nd edition. Maybe you're looking at maths in your classroom. So here's unit 3, which introduces your students to animals. How can you add maths to this? Well, of course, I know you know already. Maybe just get them to count how many animals they can see on the page. Here, for example, 11. Super, how many cats can you see?
2.
Exactly. But to really build on this, maybe in the other class at that level, ages 5 or 6, they're working on their addition skills in their native tongue, in their mother tongue. Okay. So why not implement that into this lesson and have your students create some sums? Count up and add up the amount of monkeys. Now do not write the amount of monkeys, but create the sum to equal 6. Here, for example, 2 + 4 = 6. So this can be implemented as a team game, a board writing exercise, any which way you want to implement it in your classroom, but it brings math into some context that wasn't there before. And finally, my last example, I'm going to go for the secondary level and Gateway to the World. This is the B2 students book. Now, as you can see, it's a reading lesson that very much focuses on transportation and in particular, the future of transportation. But let's take a step back. What can you do with it? How can you bring in history to this particular lesson? Well, again, research-based projects. Be diverse with what information you want your students to research. It could be as simple as the history of the automobile industry. Or maybe you want to be a little bit more specific Transportation through history. What came before car? Was there anything before horses? I don't know, do the research. Or even more specific, maybe the evolution of transportation in your country. Now, I told you at the beginning, I live in Vietnam, where motorbikes rule the road. They are the king. So it'd be great to see the evolution of transportation of what's happened in history to lead to this part in the lesson where you're looking at the future. So I'll put this out to you guys now. Super. Can you think of anything you might have to be careful of when introducing CLIL into your classrooms?
Yes, there are a lot of concerns I think me as a teacher might be worried about. The first thing is the language. Sometimes there will be some terminologies, of the subject knowledge, so can be overwhelming.
You're completely right, Super. And I didn't even tell you to say that, so awesome. How much do you expose your student to that particular subject or idea? You've got to remember that these two will work hand in hand. What they're being exposed to in their subject lesson, be it math, history, geography, and what you can then implement in your classroom as part of their English and growth of English. So that's really important to consider at what pace and speed you go at and making sure they're both in sync and working together. And also, now this is interesting, your own knowledge. Now I'm going to talk about myself here, but I'm sure you guys can sort of sympathize and relate to this. I'll be fine implementing and discussing and offering basic mathematics at a grade 1 level. I'd be comfortable with that. But if I was to introduce the CLIL element of math into secondary, where, trust me, in Vietnam, there are some crazy mathematics they do that in England we're not exposed to until maybe university level. Now, I wouldn't feel comfortable introducing that to my students who know more than I do. So that's where you've got to be careful about what your own knowledge is when introducing these other elements of subjects to your class. And finally, think about your access to appropriate resources. Again, in this session, we've spoken about blended learning and access to platforms and apps. So think about your resources in your class so that you can do a good, professional and proper job when using and introducing these different subjects in your English classroom. So certainly think about the resources that you have on offer as well. And that brings me to my final part, onestopenglish.com. The link will be provided in the chat shortly. Now, One Stop English is wonderful. It's your #1 resource site for English language teachers, which provides ample amounts of thousands of resources, lesson plans, worksheets, audio and video flashcards. So I'll just quickly play this video and walk you through it. So as you can see here on the homepage, you've got your tabs at the top, children, teenagers, and specifically there you can see, when I get there, CLIL. Have a click on CLIL and it breaks it down into each unique subject, where if you give it a click on here, I click on in a moment, mathematics, and a number of lesson plans, ideas, suggestions that you can implement in your classroom in order to bring any subject into that English ESL domain. So yeah, that's CLIL in a nutshell. Super and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Yes, brilliant, Blue. I love the ideas you just like simply twist like some of the content from a coursebook into a CLIL maybe activity and make some integration of subject content into the I like that idea.
The key takeaway for everybody attending today should be flexibility. Okay. We've offered our courses. We've got some fantastic content here at Macmillan Education, but how can you be flexible with it? And even outside of the course content, what can you do to implement what we've shown you today, whether it be CLIL, blended learning, and also that social emotional learning aspect as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was really great. That was really interesting to listen to, and also I was active in the chat, chatting to people who are coming up with good ideas, and we've got some questions for you anyway, so let's get to that. I just wanted to say one thing though before we get onto the questions. Is you brought up four trends for ELT in 2023, and people might be saying like none of these ideas are new. I mean, CLIL, it goes back years and years, for example, blended learning as well. I mean, a long time before we had COVID, we were studying online. And I think it's important just to point out that even though these are topics that have been around for a while, the fact is they are still continuing to trend. They're still important aspects of teaching, and are at the forefront of what we do every day in a classroom. So it was really great to see that you weren't afraid to talk about those topics, rather than, let's say, I mean, there's loads of other trends. We can't talk about all of them, but they're really important. Teaching English is always a trend, exactly. So first question was from a anonymous attendee. Oh, I wonder who that was, but they had a good question about SEL. Now, Super, you touched on it, how we integrate it into our material, but how would you apply it into the classroom if it's not included in the course book?
Yes, that's always the case, right? You don't have a book that has like social emotional learning integrated, but as Blue mentioned, actually it's quite organic. We are actually already practicing some of the maybe teamwork, collaboration in our English classrooms. I think the key is the teacher will need to have a basic understanding of what social emotional learning is. Yeah, from that framework, I think teachers will have a very clear idea like what 5 areas we might be thinking about before we start doing a collaborative work or a pair work or group work. And during that like activity, what kind of skills, sub skills are actually possible to develop. For example, if they're working together as a team, they will use some like relationship skills. If it's a project work about like protecting the environment, it's about like responsible decision making. So teachers will need to have that big picture in their mind, even if they're not using a book. Yeah, with social emotional learning, we have already got all these tasks and activities in our English classroom can practice these skills, but teachers need to be aware, before they implementing that activity and task. So I really do recommend teachers to go and find out more about social emotional learning. So there is an organization called CASEL, CASEL. Go to that website and read more like books and files on that website will help you develop a good understanding about social emotional learning.
It's likely that people are implementing it without knowing that, and it's interesting to go back and recycle that. So Blue, I have a question for you, just a quick clarification. Stephen Christopher has asked this. So are you saying that CLIL can be implemented to any age level?
Well, Stephen, thank you for the question. I'd like to think so. And by definition of any age level, you always look at those 3, don't you? Well, let's look at pre-primary as well. Pre-primary, primary, secondary, and adult content. And yes, I'm going to go out on a limb there and say, CLIL can be implemented any which way you want. But again, dependent on whether it's a reading activity in a book, a video lesson. But again, just as simplistic as adding numbers can make it numeracy. As simplistic as doing a little bit of research on some kind of historical factor can make it history. So I'm not necessarily saying every subject can be tied to every piece and part of an activity in a book, but I'm sure with creativity and a little bit of zest in your teaching, you can find a way of implementing an element of another subject within that particular theme, content, context of whatever it might be you teaching in the lesson.
Yeah, and I think CLIL, and we kind of like in our course books, we sort of call it soft CLIL, and then there's hard CLIL. Now we don't really have time to go into all that at the moment, but interestingly, Tani mentioned in the chat, and the question I think is answered. Do you think all TESL or TEFL materials are CLIL due to the content that's included? All of our materials usually, particularly in primary and secondary, have some kind of subject-based element to the input to the content. So therefore, you could argue that they are, to an extent, some CLIL, but then we go into harder CLIL as well. So anyway, we're going to finish the Q&A there because we're already at 6 o'clock.
one moment, Del, apologies to interrupt. Would you mind writing that website that you mentioned into the chat, please? I think Daphne and a few other people have asked.
The Castle, yeah.
Yes, castle.org. Let me share that with you. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Del.
Super. That's all right. Actually, I'll put this one in as well. I've just found one as well, so I'll drop that in there. Okay, so let me just move forward. Stay around just for a moment because we've got a couple of important things to announce. Don't forget, as I mentioned at the start, to follow us. If you don't follow us at the moment, then please follow us on our Facebook sites or through WeChat. Email addresses are there. For people based in China or the rest of Asia, there's 2 separate emails.